So, what have I done?
My God, what have I done?
Have I made a big mistake that's going to land me in debt? Or have I made the right choice? You guys decide. A couple of weeks ago, it was April the 5th. And for those of you who don't know, April the 5th is the final day in the tax calendar. It's the last day in the previous tax year and the beginning of the next one. And as you know, Rachel Reeves announced in her what was it, her winter budget or her autumn budget, I forget what it was, that she was going to be reducing the annual limit you could put into a cash ISA for each tax year from 20,000 to 12,000. And these changes would take effect at the beginning of the tax year in 2027. So that means I have a limited amount of time to put as much money in my cash ISA as possible before the limit changes. So what did I do? Well, I've been debating in my head whether this was the right thing to do or not. But long story short, I borrowed £3,500 from my Lloyd's credit card, and I put the money in my cash ISA with Trading 212. So now I have £6,600, something like that, in there. And it also means, given that the AER currently is at 3.6% for a cash ISA, this means I will now get around £20 a month purely out of compounded interest. So in other words, I get £20 a month for free, for nothing. I mentioned some time ago that this was part of my dream. Yes, I made a video back when I worked with Royal Mail about my hopes and dreams. This idea that in the distant future, I want to be living off what is a de facto private pension, where I've accumulated enough life savings so that I can earn a comfortable wage off monthly interest, and so that I never have to work a day again in my life. Obviously, £20 a month, that's obviously you're going to need a lot more than that if you want to get to the stage where you don't need to work ever again. But I am one step closer to it. Did I make the right decision? Well, on the one hand, yes, I am one step closer to my dream goal of having a private pension. But then on the other hand, I'm now in £4,000 worth of credit card debt. So I'm going to have to spend the next, 6 or 7 months paying that off. And people are going to chime in and say, well, why couldn't you just wait a few more months? First of all, the deadline of April the 5th was approaching. And look, there's two things you need to be mindful of when it comes to investing. There's time and money. And once time is gone, it's gone. Money, you can always get that back at a later date, but time, you're never getting that back. So I felt under pressure most of the time. I kept having this internal monologue in my head. Should I do this? I don't know. Is this a wise decision? Am I going to regret it later? Especially since fuel prices are getting more and more expensive because of the Strait of Hormuz closure and all that. But in the end, I went with my gut. I folded because, well, the way I figured, because we're now living in the next tax year, now April the 5th has passed, if for whatever reason I need to withdraw cash from my cash ISA to pay off my credit card debt, what will happen is my Trading 212 cash limit for my ISA it will increase by 3,000. If I choose to withdraw £3,000, it will go up by 3,000 because the limit reverts back to 2,000 within the start of each year. So if you subtract any more of it, it registers on the account. But hopefully I won't need to do that. This is obviously, mathematically speaking, I put myself in debt that I didn't need to have. I could have simply been patient, waited for my monthly earnings, and then put that in the ISA. But for reasons that aren't exactly rational or logical, more, how can I put this? Because I have this deep longing to reach this hypothetical future where I don't need to work ever again, any step that I can take that puts me closer to it is enough to make me feel assured that things are going to get better in the future. And I've been really struggling over these past few weeks, over the past month, especially with what happened with regards to that second job I got, where I got sacked almost as soon as having started it. I needed a pick-me-up. I needed something that would give me a confidence boost. So that's why I did it. And say what you will about my decision, but for every month hence into the future, I'm going to be getting £20 a month for free. And that's not bad. I mean, unless they change the AER, which they probably will. I mean, or they may not, depending on what the Bank of England decides to do next. They might increase interest rates because of inflation, because of what's going on in the Strait of Hormuz. And if they do, that means I'll get even more money each month. If the global economic financial system is collapsing, you might as well try and see if you can turn a profit from it, right? Anyway, that's all I wanted to say. This has been Tracking. Take care, guys.